Admiral Krex'tal of the Vorthak Empire stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the Annihilator's Edge, watching the small blue planet rotate lazily below. His 6 eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he reviewed the invasion plans one final time. Earth. Such a pathetic little world, inhabited by bipedal primates who had barely figured out faster-than-light travel. Admiral, his tactical officer, Commander Vexmore, reported with barely contained excitement, all fleet units are in position. 3,000 warships, armed with our latest plasma cannons and quantum disruptors. The humans won't know what hit them. Krex'tal's mandibles clicked together in what passed for laughter among his species. Oh, how I love easy conquests. These humans will be cowering in their primitive shelters within the first hour. Their military technology is at least 5 centuries behind ours. The holographic display showed Earth's defenses, pitiful arrays of missile systems and nuclear weapons that might as well have been slingshots against the Vorthak fleet. Intelligence reports indicated the humans had approximately 4 billion inhabitants scattered across their continents, most of them completely unaware that today would mark the beginning of their species' enslavement. "Sir, we're receiving multiple communication attempts from the planet's surface," reported Communications Officer Zwexnal. "Shall I respond?" "Put them through. Let's hear what these primitives have to say before we reduce their cities to ash." The main screen flickered, revealing a middle-aged human male in what appeared to be some sort of military uniform. His hair was graying at the temples, and he wore an expression of grim determination that almost made Krex'tal snort with amusement. "This is General Marcus Kane of the United Earth Defense Force," the human said, his voice steady despite the impossible odds facing his species. "We know you're out there, and we know what you want. I'm here to offer terms for our surrender." Krex'tal's laughter echoed through the bridge. "Terms? Terms? You're offering terms to the Vorthak Empire?" He wiped tears from his compound eyes. "Oh, this is rich. Tell me, little human, what makes you think you're in any position to negotiate?" Kane's expression didn't change. "Because we know something you don't." "Enlighten me," Krex'tal said, still chuckling. "What could a primitive species like yours possibly know that would interest the mighty Vorthak? We know you've been watching us for the past 50 years. We know you think we're weak because we fight among ourselves. We know you believe our weapons are inferior." Kane paused, and for just a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Something that made Krex'tal's amusement falter slightly. "But here's the thing you missed in all your surveillance." "And what's that?" "We weren't fighting wars against each other for the past century because we were primitive savages. We were practicing." The communication cut out abruptly. Krex'tal stared at the blank screen for several seconds before his tactical officer's voice broke the silence. "Admiral, we're detecting massive energy spikes across the planet's surface. It appears they're powering up weapon systems we didn't know existed." "Impossible," Krex'tal snarled. "Our scouts have been monitoring this world for decades. There's nothing down there that could threaten us." "Sir," the sensor operator's voice was tight with confusion, "I'm reading weapon signatures that don't match anything in our database. These energy patterns, they're unlike anything we've encountered before." Suddenly, the space around Earth began to shimmer. What had appeared to be empty void moments before was now revealing itself to be something else entirely. Massive structures, previously invisible, began materializing throughout the solar system. "Stealth technology," Krex'tal whispered, his confidence evaporating like mist. "They have military-grade stealth technology." "Not just stealth, Admiral," Vexmore reported, his voice filled with growing alarm. "These aren't just hidden weapons platforms. Look at the size of them." The holographic display updated, showing the true scope of Earth's defenses. Orbital battle stations the size of small moons. Fighter squadrons numbering in the tens of thousands. Weapon systems that defied conventional understanding of human technological capability. "How?" Krex'tal demanded. "How did they hide all of this?" His question was answered by another transmission from the planet's surface. This time, it wasn't General Kane who appeared on screen, but a woman with short auburn hair and cold green eyes. She wore a uniform similar to Kane's, but with different insignia. "Admiral Krex'tal," she said, and her use of his name sent ice through his veins. "I'm Colonel Maya Singh, head of Earth's Deep Black Projects Division." "You look surprised. How do you know my name?" Krex'tal sputtered. Singh's smile was sharp as a blade. "The same way we knew you were coming. The same way we've known about the Vorthak Empire for the past 73 years. You see, you weren't the first aliens to visit our little blue planet." The implications hit Krex'tal like a physical blow. "The Zelanian expedition. But they never returned." "Oh, they returned all right. Just not to you." Singh's expression grew positively predatory. "Funny story about the Zelanians. Turns out they were refugees fleeing from your empire. When they crash-landed on Earth in 1951, we could have done the typical human thing and experimented on them or locked them away. Instead, we did something that apparently never occurred to you." "What?" "We asked them if they needed help." The bridge fell silent except for the steady hum of the ship's systems. Krex'tal felt his world tilting on its axis as Singh continued her explanation. 73 years, Admiral. 73 years of Zelanian refugees sharing their technology with us. Teaching us. Warning us about species like yours who view conquest as entertainment. Her smile grew wider, revealing teeth that suddenly seemed far too sharp. 73 years to prepare for this exact moment. Impossible, Krex'tal repeated weakly. Our intelligence indicated you were barely spacefaring. Your weapons were primitive projectile systems and crude nuclear devices. Oh, those? Singh laughed, and the sound sent chills down Krex'tal's spine. Those were for show. We kept using those old weapon systems in our conflict so species like yours would continue to underestimate us. Meanwhile, we were developing some truly nasty surprises. The sensor operator's voice cracked as he delivered his next report. "Admiral, I'm detecting quantum torpedo locks on our entire fleet. Every ship is being targeted simultaneously." "From where?" Krex'tal spun around. "There are no human ships within range." "From the planet itself, sir. They've turned their entire world into a weapon." Singh's image on the screen tilted her head slightly, as if she could hear the conversations on the Vorthak bridge. "You want to know the really funny part about all this? For 73 years, we've been dreaming about the day when someone would finally be stupid enough to attack Earth. We've been preparing, planning, building weapon systems that would make your worst nightmares seem like pleasant dreams." She paused, her expression growing almost wistful. "Do you know how frustrating it's been, having all these wonderful toys and no one to use them on? We've been practically begging the universe to send us a proper enemy. And here you are." "You're bluffing," Krex'tal said, though his voice lacked conviction. "No species would weaponize their entire homeworld." "No sane species would," Singh agreed cheerfully. "But here's the thing about humans that your intelligence apparently missed. We're not particularly sane. We're creative, adaptive, and absolutely ruthless when pushed. And you just pushed us." The tactical display showed red targeting indicators appearing on every Vorthak vessel. 3,000 ships, each one locked onto by multiple weapon systems they couldn't even identify. "Last chance, Admiral," Singh said, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried more menace than any shout. "Surrender now, and we might let some of you live to spread the word about what happens when you mess with Earth." Krex'tal's mandibles clicked nervously. Around him, his bridge crew waited for orders, their confidence shattered by the revelation that their supposedly easy conquest had become a nightmare scenario. "And if we refuse?" he asked. Singh's smile returned, bright and terrible. "Then you'll find out why we humans have spent the last century perfecting the art of war. You wanted to see what happens when Earth gets angry? She leaned closer to the camera, her green eyes blazing with anticipation. Congratulations. You're about to get a front-row seat to the greatest show in the galaxy. Admiral Krex'tal stared at Colonel Singh's predatory smile for exactly 3 seconds before his warrior pride overrode his growing fear. You think your primitive tricks will work against the might of the Vorthak Empire? We have conquered 17 star systems. We are the apex predators of this galaxy. Singh's laugh was genuinely delighted. Oh, Admiral. You just made my entire century. She turned away from the camera for a moment. Maya to all stations. The hostile commander has chosen the fun option. Repeat, we are cleared for Operation Pandora's Playground. Operation what? Krex'tal demanded, but Singh had already cut the transmission. The first sign that something was catastrophically wrong came from the sensor station. Admiral, we're detecting massive gravitational anomalies throughout the system. It's like space itself is shifting. Before Krex'tal could respond, reality bent around the Vorthak fleet. The stars didn't just disappear, they twisted, folded, and rearranged themselves into impossible patterns. The familiar constellations that had guided his species for millennia were suddenly alien and wrong. What have they done? Krex'tal whispered. His answer came in the form of a new voice on the communication channel. This one belonged to an elderly human male with silver hair and laugh lines around his eyes that somehow made him look more dangerous than any warrior Krex'tal had ever faced. Hello there, Admiral. I'm Dr. Eugene Hollis, and I've been waiting 73 years to field test some of my more interesting projects. The old man's smile was grandfatherly and absolutely terrifying. You're currently experiencing what we call a spatial displacement field. We've essentially moved your entire fleet into a pocket dimension of our own creation. Impossible. Krex'tal snarled. No species has that level of technological mastery. Well, no single species, Dr. Hollis agreed cheerfully. But when you combine human ingenuity with Zelanian quantum mechanics, Rigelian energy manipulation, and a few tricks we learned from the Nexari refugees you drove to our world in 2003, you get some truly spectacular results. The tactical display was going insane. Ships that had been in formation were now scattered across impossible distances. Some vessels appeared to be occupying the same space while somehow remaining intact. Others were reporting that their sensors showed them existing in multiple locations simultaneously. Sir, Commander Vexmore's voice was strained, our navigation systems are completely useless. According to sensors, we're simultaneously at Earth, the Galactic core, and 17 other locations. Dr. Hollis nodded approvingly. Quantum superposition on a macro scale. Took us 40 years to figure out how to weaponize it properly. Now, Admiral, let me introduce you to the real fun part of human creativity. The space around the Vorthak fleet suddenly filled with ships. Not human ships, these vessels bore the sleek designs of the Zelanians, the organic curves of Nexari biotechnology, and completely alien configurations that Krex'tal didn't recognize at all. Allow me to present the Earth Defense Coalition, Dr. Hollis announced proudly. Representatives from 14 different species, all of whom have one thing in common. What's that? Krex'tal asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. They're all refugees from your empire's expansion campaigns. Turns out, when you spend centuries conquering and enslaving other species, word gets around. For the past 7 decades, survivors have been making their way to Earth, sharing their knowledge, their technology, and their very justified desire for revenge. A new voice joined the channel, this one speaking in the musical tones of the Melodians. Admiral Krex'tal. I am Commander Lyra-Esh of the Free Melodian Fleet. Your forces destroyed my homeworld 47 years ago. Today, we return the favor. Another voice, harsh and guttural, identified itself as Captain Thorgrim of the Ironborn clans. My people fought your ships for 6 months before our world fell. We learned much about Vorthak weaknesses during that time. One by one, representatives of species that the Vorthak Empire had conquered or attempted to conquer introduced themselves. Each one carried a personal grudge, and each one had contributed something unique to Earth's defense network. You see, Admiral, Dr. Hollis explained as the list continued, humans have this peculiar trait. When someone comes to us asking for help, we don't ask what's in it for us. We ask how we can help. It served us remarkably well. Krex'tal felt his confidence crumbling as the true scope of his situation became clear. This is impossible. No single world could coordinate this many species. You're right, came Colonel Singh's voice as she rejoined the conversation. No single world could. Good thing Earth isn't just a single world anymore. The spatial distortion around the fleet shifted again, and suddenly Krex'tal could see Earth properly for the first time. What he had taken for a single planet was actually something far more complex. The world was surrounded by a shell of interconnected structures, each one easily the size of a continent. Millions of beings moved between them, representing dozens of different species working in perfect harmony. Welcome to the Earth Collective, Singh said with obvious pride. Home to 4 billion humans and roughly 12 billion refugees from across the galaxy. All of them united by one simple principle. Which is: nobody threatens our home. Nobody threatens our friends. And nobody gets to play the galactic conqueror without consequences. The first weapons fired were unlike anything in Krex'tal's experience. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, they seemed to rewrite the fundamental properties of matter itself. Vorthak ships that had been built to withstand planet-cracking weapons simply ceased to exist, their atoms peacefully deciding to become something else entirely. Molecular restructuring cannons, Dr. Hollis explained helpfully. Courtesy of the Epsilon Ceti refugees. Your ships are being converted into harmless gases as we speak. Sir, the tactical officer reported in a voice that cracked with panic, we've lost 200 ships in the first volley. Our shields aren't just useless, they're making things worse by concentrating the effect. But the humans weren't done. The second wave of attacks came from weapons that seemed to target the very concept of aggression. Vorthak warriors trained from birth to fight and conquer suddenly found themselves overwhelmed by an inexplicable desire to tend gardens and write poetry. Emotional pacification rays, Singh explained, sounding almost apologetic. The Empathic Alliance refugees were very insistent that we include non-lethal options. They're quite upset about the whole galactic conquest thing. Krex'tal watched in horror as his most elite soldiers began composing haikus and discussing their feelings with enemy combatants. What have you done to my warriors? Given them a chance to discover who they really are underneath all that artificial aggression, came a new voice. This one was gentle, almost musical, and radiated a warmth that made Krex'tal's heart skip a beat. I am Peacebringer Saren of the Harmony Worlds. Your species has such potential for beauty, Admiral. Why waste it on conquest? Because conquest is our nature. Krex'tal roared, clinging desperately to his warrior's pride. No, Dr. Hollis said quietly. Conquest was your programming. There's a difference. The third wave of attacks came from the humans themselves, and these were the most terrifying of all. They weren't weapons in any conventional sense, they were ideas. Pure concepts given physical form and launched at the Vorthak fleet like missiles. The concept of doubt struck the command ship first. Suddenly, every order Krex'tal gave was questioned. Every decision was second-guessed. His crew began debating the morality of their invasion, the logic of their tactics, and the fundamental assumptions of their entire civilization. Information warfare, Singh explained with obvious satisfaction. Humans are particularly good at this. We've been using it on each other for thousands of years, so we've had lots of practice. The concept of curiosity hit next, and Krex'tal watched in amazement as his warriors began asking questions instead of following orders. Why were they conquering these worlds? What right did they have to enslave other species? Was there perhaps a better way to achieve their goals? No, Krex'tal whispered. This is not how the Vorthak Empire ends. Oh, but it is. Colonel Singh's voice was gentle now, almost compassionate. The Vorthak Empire ends not with a bang, but with a question. Your people are asking themselves why they chose conquest over cooperation. And once that question is asked, it can't be unanswered, Dr. Hollis finished. The curiosity weapon is particularly effective against authoritarian structures. Once people start thinking for themselves, it's very hard to get them to stop. Across the fleet, Vorthak crews were laying down their arms. Not in surrender, but in confusion. The fundamental beliefs that had driven their civilization for centuries were crumbling under the weight of simple questions they had never been allowed to ask. I offer you a choice, Admiral, Singh said as the last of the Vorthak weapons powered down. You can continue to fight a war you cannot win against an enemy you never truly understood. Or, you can ask yourself the same question your crew is asking. Why conquest? Why not cooperation? Why not join the dozens of species that have found a better way here on Earth? Krex'tal looked around his bridge at his crew. Warriors who had never known doubt were now engaged in philosophical discussions with their former enemies. Soldiers trained only for battle were learning about art, music, and literature from species they had come to conquer. What happens to the Vorthak Empire? He asked quietly. It becomes something better, Singh replied. Something worth preserving instead of something worth stopping. But that choice is yours to make. Admiral Krex'tal of the Vorthak Empire closed his 6 eyes and asked himself a question he had never dared voice before. What if there was another way? The war was over before it had truly begun. But for the first time in Vorthak history, losing felt like winning.